Hey everybody, happy Sunday evening. How's everybody doing?
Hey everyone.
I have the hubby here with me. I also have Colorado Crime Con on with us as well. And we are going to talk about the discrepancies and all of that good stuff. Let me turn down this music. So we're going to talk about the latest Chris Watts confession and the discrepancies and all that good stuff. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Hi Rose, how are you? Hey Justice 4. I know we have CrimeCon on here, and Lori, how are you doing? So I have got a few different things here. Let me pull up. I've got some notes, and I also have some screenshots. So I know I came prepared this time. Let's see.
Look at you coming prepared.
Right. Everybody say hi to Colorado Crime Con.
What's up, guys?
Hey, hippie chick. How are you?
I'm going to pull up chat here.
Okay, so I went through and was pretty much trying to figure out, there are so many different discrepancies through his latest interview, and I tried to pick out the ones that stood out to me the most and tried to kind of pick out some things that would also be talking points for that as well. I know that we also have, again, we have Colorado Crime Con. She has a different background than I do, and she is going to be able to touch on a few different things, and she also has some other things that she would like to talk about. So my husband is going to kind of chat and comment as he sees fit, and he's also in the chat as upgrade_TCTF. His name is Grady, and people call him Upgrade, so that is what he is going to go by. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hey, Patriot Nene. Dad with a phone sent you, huh? Well, thank you, Dad with a phone. I was watching... Yeah, I know. That's how I got to know Jenny, and I've met a lot of cool people through him, and also got to watch him on Dateline, so that was pretty exciting. Jenny, what'd you think about it?
Huh?
What'd you think about Dateline?
I mean, it didn't really give us anything that we didn't already know, but it definitely, I think, introduced the rest of the world to not only Michael, but this entire case.
Absolutely. That's what's most important, and I'm glad that they highlighted him in a good light as well.
Me too. I was a little worried.
Yes, right?
Well, actually, I was panicking, but...
Well, I'm glad. I didn't think they'd do anything crazy, but I'm glad. So, hey, Stephanie. Well, thank you. We have someone who found us on Twitter as well. I was trying to pimp us out wherever I could today, because I know Chris Watts is the big topic, and I know we're going to be talking on here, but everybody, I want you to comment on here as well, and I want you to tell us what you think, what you thought maybe were some discrepancies that you came across as well, because we might not have thought about those. So we'd like to hear your thoughts as well.
For sure.
So I think the one thing that I kind of want to touch base on is that most people automatically said, oh, hey, my mom's on here. First time watching live. Hey, Mom. So I think one of the biggest things that people have said at this point is that Chris Watts lies all the time, and what makes us think that he's telling the truth now. Honestly, I think he's probably telling the truth about 25% of the time. That's my opinion. So I guess the big thing is that he has lied since day one, really since hour one. I wanted to say minute one, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he had his stuff together for the first few minutes, but within the first hour, he was already twisted up on his lies. So before we even get into the confession, something that he lied about from the very beginning was where he said Shanann, Bella, and Cece really were. he told some people that they had left together and they went to a friend's house. And then he told other people that he honestly had no idea. He left for work, they were there, and now this is the first thing that he's finding out that they're gone. So from the very beginning, that is some of the bullcrap he's been telling. So really, honestly, I was skeptical from the very beginning. Oh, and Dad's listening too. Hey, Dad. We've got the whole fam in here.
Heck yeah.
So we've got the hubby, the mom, the dad, the Jenny, the everybody.
The everybody.
The everybody.
Anybody is now officially here.
I guess, yes, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on that? How, as far as him telling the truth, I really only give him about 25%. What do you think, Jenny?
I think once a liar, always a liar. I think at this point he just wants to. He's signed his own death warrant and he's fine with that because now he wants the control.
So do you think that he's too much of a coward to commit suicide? You think that he wants somebody else to do that for him? Is that what you're saying? He's signing his own death warrant? Okay.
Yep. I think ultimately, because he can't keep his own story straight, he was looking less and less credible. I think investigators pretty much knew from day, the interview with Fox 31 that he was a liar.
Right.
And, you could just tell he was a liar.
He said, I heard recently that he said he didn't want anything to do with that interview.
Yeah, he said that in the interrogation.
Yeah, I thought that he wanted to do that interview. So I'm not really sure about that either. I feel like he's lying. He wanted attention and he wanted to bring good attention to the case in the beginning, making it look like it wasn't him and that he had nothing to do with it. Then he realized it was backfiring on him. And then he was like, oh crap, now what do I do? So that's my kind of position on that as well.
Chris, as much as I want to believe that he was possessed by a demon, there's not a chance in hell. I'm sorry. I grew up in that world, and there's plenty of us around that can tell you he's not. He's truly a psychotic individual.
Yeah, I would like to think that there's something else that made him do this as well, but so one thing, I'm just going to jump right into it. I was actually, I came prepared, you guys, I told you. So I did my research, and I actually looked up what Colorado requires for premeditation and what they require for degrees of murder. So he pled guilty to first-degree murder. And in Colorado specifically, for those of you that don't know, because I'm not from Colorado, so I didn't know what their specifics were. So I looked it up, and the law is very specific about first-degree murder. Again, this is what he pled guilty to, and this was not just one degree, or this was not just one charge of first-degree murder. So it says, this is from some attorney's website. It says, murder and the law in Colorado. In order to understand second-degree murder, we need to first understand first-degree. First-degree murder is considered the most repugnant form of murder. The elements of a first-degree murder charge are deliberation, long and careful thought or consideration, premeditation, thinking or planning a crime beforehand, and or malice aforethought, the conscious intent to cause death or great bodily harm to another person before a person commits the crime of murder. So basically you have to have one or all of those to be able to even be charged with first degree. And anything less would not be first degree. So it says if the second degree is when someone intentionally kills someone, but the elements required for first degree, which are the deliberation, premeditation, and malice, are missing. So basically, he just said, I plead guilty to first degree murder to all of them. That tells me a lot right there. And after looking into all of this, it kind of made me rethink everything that he said, because I thought that he wanted to come on and say that everything was a crime of passion, and then it wasn't deliberated. But then when I went back and listened to his interview, and when I read the review of it all, he even questions and doubts himself in his own 5-hour interview as to all of that. And the fact that he sat there for 45 minutes driving Shanann and her dead body, in addition to his kids, in the car for 45 minutes, even the fact that he had a few minutes means that it's premeditation. So I don't know if I believe anything that he says anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I want to hold weight to his confession, it's not going to happen. I was actually cutting it today and going back through the audio. I had a hard time. Because, I actually sat down and had to consciously listen to it to figure out, what I was going to cut. And just how nonchalant and matter of fact he was about describing what happened to Shanann and the girls. And, he repeatedly said he didn't remember where he dumped certain items, like the blanket, like his clothes.
Yeah.
What? Like, how do you not know where you dump something?
Absolutely. You know what? I actually commented on that. I wrote, so in my notes, I put that he said that he couldn't remember where he put things, but he also put in here that, let's see here. He remembered some things and he didn't remember others, just like what you had mentioned, because I know you and I had talked about that prior. But then he was so specific when he talked about him and Kessinger and their first date, and how he remembered Shanann kept on her bra and didn't take off her makeup, but he didn't remember where he put her blanket. And that even happened the same night. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he, if he was in that fit of rage, maybe he blacked out. A lot of people say they black out. They don't remember. But that's not going to happen. I even tried to Google how long you would black out. Do you know? Because I couldn't find anyone. I was looking up rage killing, but again, y'all, if something happens to me, delete my Google history because shit's going down. Like the crap that I have to Google for this. But I'm trying to, I was looking up rage killing and looking up what constitute as something that's crime of passion versus rage, because how long can you be in that trance? Or if it was a psychotic break or something, how long, do you know anything on that? What's your experience with that in the medical field? Do you know anything about that at all?
Well, at least, I probably have the most experience with psychotic breaks. And usually there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. Whether, somebody has just not slept for days on end, has intentionally kept themselves up for days on end. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, what position you have, your degree, your background, your race, your religion. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't discriminate.
Now, can something like that, if someone goes through, some sort of psychosis or some sort of psychotic break, can someone be triggered and be put into that state, or is it normally just completely out of the blue, or does it depend?
It depends on the person.
Gotcha.
If there's a history of a psychotic break, then absolutely yes. There's going to be precipitating factors that carry a consistency through each psychotic break.
Makes sense. Okay. I don't think he was all there. There was definitely something he commented on his IQ and how high it was, and how he took an IQ test 2 different times. And it makes me think that he's almost this is the best way I can describe it. And again, this is not me hating on anybody. I love The Big Bang Theory, but it's almost like a Sheldon Cooper where you're really, really smart, but it's really hard to talk to people. And I almost kind of get that vibe from him where he's hard to talk to. And a lot of people said in the interview, we heard that he didn't really date anybody through school. He didn't really date anybody long term. It was kind of like Shanann was his first long term girlfriend, and she kind of, I don't know, I guess swept him up off his feet and put him under the spell, or that's what his family says. So it kind of makes me think that maybe he really is smart, but in a different kind of way where it's more book smart. And when it just comes to the normal run-of-the-mill things that, I'm not that... I commented early in the live that history, stuff like that, geography, none of that stuff, I'm just not interested in it. So maybe he's just one of those people, and maybe that's why. And he really is smart. I know people have questioned his intelligence and that he's an idiot, but I almost think that maybe he is intelligent in some way, but just not in others.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very, very much smart. He's very manipulative. You can tell he knows how to get what he wants.
That's a good point to say that he's manipulative, because I feel like he had an agenda. I can't figure out what exactly his agenda was, because he said that he was taken off guard that the investigators were even there. So to me, he couldn't have really planned that unless he knew that they were going to come at some point. Maybe he's just had a lot of time to think about things, but he had to have some sort of agenda. And he was so not, like you said, so nonchalant about everything. And he didn't ever really have any sort of emotion. I mean, seriously, like, my kid and I have had a really hard week because he's been sick. And I have had lack of sleep. And if I even, like, raise my voice at him, I want to cry and yell at myself and go, like, put myself in the corner, because I feel like a complete and total jerk and like a bad mom. And for this guy to not show any emotion after he killed his wife and then killed his 2 live children and an unborn fetus, just, he showed no emotion. And I don't care. He can say that he has, found religion and he's read the Bible and knows it inside and out. But to me, that would make me feel that you would be even more remorseful. And he just shows no remorse whatsoever. Like, he doesn't care. The only remorse he shows was towards Kessinger's persona and her future. And he feels bad that she got drug into this. Are you kidding me?
No, I mean, wow, I know how to spell. I promise, guys.
I'm not sure about that.
Good Lord. No, I think so. The one thing that we kind of see consistently with criminals who may have, a psychosis or a psychotic break of some sort is they may not always understand the inner, how to communicate or how to show that emotion, which is why he was coached to show emotion.
Yeah.
Linda, no, he was not informed that he was having visitors. He had no idea they were coming.
Yeah, he was totally caught off guard. So, I mean, he could have thought that they may have informed him prior that they would be showing up. I mean, the case wasn't over. Just because he pled guilty, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. So he could have kind of had this inkling in the back of his mind that they may show up at some point. And this could have been something that he rehearsed prior, but he couldn't have known the questions that they were going to ask. Other than, I mean, this guy's had since the middle of August to recite this and rehearse this. So he's literally had 7 months to plan this in his mind. And, well, I guess a little less than that, because this was back in February. But who knows? I mean, he could have made up all of this in his head. There's some of the evidence that would make sense. And then there's others that he admitted, and none of it makes any sense. And I almost feel like he's just playing games with his mind at this point. Like, he doesn't even know what to believe is true, because he's been locked up for so long and in solitary, and he likes being where he is now. So, I don't know. It's just messed up.
So Chem and Oak, what do you guys think about the patch lack of sleep not being FDA approved? Well, so I was actually talking to somebody this weekend, Friday night. Was it Friday night? Yeah, I guess it was Friday night. That was a long night, guys. But I was talking to somebody who takes, or who uses them. And they were asking whether or not, they should stop. And I was like, well, it's up to you, but it's not FDA approved. And that's, as much as I don't like the government in things, and, I don't think they should be, it's a matter of, a sense of protection, or, not wanting, obviously people to die, but those burn patches are nasty. They are nasty.
Are there a lot of similar things that would be FDA approved, or are all of those things that really are similar, none of it's really FDA approved, you know?
Well, so like you have fat burning pills that are, I don't know if they're necessarily, that are like sold in like gas stations. Those are technically FDA approved.
Really? The gas station.
In theory,
Oh my gosh.
to be sold, yeah.
Sure. Okay. Huh. So I wonder if it's because it's the way that it's sold through a multi-level marketing company, if that has something to do with it.
No, I just don't think they wanted to pay for the research to be done. Or
Gotcha.
do their own research.
They have their own, yeah, okay, that makes sense. They have people doing their grunt work for them, so why would they put any more thought into it, I guess?
Exactly.
Interesting. I know that there are specifics about how he said that he felt on those patches, though. He said that he felt specifically on one patch, he felt one way, and then he said when he had both of them on at the same time, I'm pretty sure, I would have to go back through, let me see if I can find it, but he said something specifically about how he felt like his body was working out all of the time. So it obviously did something to him. And I mean, I've taken weight loss pills and dieting pills and stuff, and I know that I couldn't sleep at all. I had to take melatonin and try to put myself to sleep because I was just so fidgety, and that was from taking it in the morning. So I know that they can do things to you, but that was something prescribed by a doctor. So I don't know exactly what he was going through, but I know he mentioned how it affected him and how he felt like he was working out all the time because of it. So I'd like to see how, I don't know very many people. I actually found out my cousin, she does something with Thrive. I'd be curious to see what she thinks. I think she likes it. Does anybody in the chat do anything with Thrive, or do you know how it affects anybody? That's what I took, phentermine. That was what I took. Hey, Irby. I hope everybody's feeling better. Thrive and Burn. Those were the two that he had on at the same time.
Yeah, Thrive, and then just the normal Thrive patches, and then the Thrive Burn.
I'm trying to look and see if I can. I'm looking at the whole well, it's not the whole transcript, but that breakdown.
Please be respectful to each other.
Are people? Come on, mods. If somebody's being
just
ridiculous, just kick them out. I can't with this. This is already a sensitive subject, guys. So if somebody's being ridiculous, just get them out. Hey, Brandy. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Judy. Hey, everybody that's joined. I appreciate it.
I mean, I think, ultimately, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Like, that's why we're, obviously sitting here.
Yeah, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we knew why. That's for sure.
I mean, if we could get inside of his head and, figure it out, we'd be in a very, very much different position. But have you asked your husband what would cause him to kill you?
I have not, because my ex tried to do such, and that takes me to a not so good place. I know there are a lot of people that ask that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know it's different. It's definitely more difficult, I think, just because of my circumstances. So I know that there's a lot of things that I can look at and I can think about and take myself into a place like that or ask about that wouldn't affect me, that would affect a lot of others. But I think because I have a personal history with that, it's not even something that I can even go to. Like, I scratched my son with my nail the other day and I almost had a meltdown, okay? Like, I just can't even take myself to that place. And I know that I've told everybody that I'm totally honest about having PTSD and going through therapy and starting that and stuff. And I actually have homework I have to do for an appointment on Tuesday. And so it's something that I try not to go to, but no, I'm sure there's a number of different things, but I know it's not something that you guys don't take my laughter as me thinking it's funny either. That's totally me being nervous, and that's one of those things. You hit one of my trigger points, Jenny. Good one.
I live to serve.
I know. You're lucky I like you a little bit.
Oh, thanks.
I do have
Hi,
a question.
Deanna. What's up?
Hey, I have a question. So, remember how we were I even mentioned this to you the other day on the phone. And, well, one, you guys, I'm putting through her probably through hell and back because she's cutting audio for me through this. And I owe her, like, super big time. We're trying to get, it's awful to say a highlight reel because I don't feel like there's anything really that's a highlight. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that would like to know what exactly Chris said, but they don't want to listen to the whole 5 hours. So we're trying to put something together, and I know that it's difficult to listen to, so I'm going to apologize for like 1,000 times. But I know when we talked the other day, I mentioned how one other reason why I thought he was totally full of crap was because he mentioned how he straddled Shanann on the bed as they were talking for like 10 or 15 minutes. And she mentioned to him, "You're hurting the baby, get off of me." And I keep thinking about that. And it gives me the chills talking about it. Like the hair is raising up on my arms, you guys. Like, because she did not fight back at all. And I wonder why. Like, that makes me think that he is absolutely sick in his mind to not only know that you're putting her in a position where you could hurt her, but to be straddling the baby in a position like that and in a moment of rage, that really just gets to me. What are your thoughts on her not fighting back in that position? Like, why would he say something like that? That doesn't make any sense to me, and that's something that's really, really bothering me.
Well, somebody brought it to my attention today, actually, that it doesn't, when you're choking somebody out, it doesn't take long for them to pass out.
It only takes seconds. I know that. It only takes seconds to get them to pass out. Now, it takes them minutes for them to die. So you have to consistently hold, if you're strangling them, you have to consistently hold pressure in the right spot and cut off their circulation for them to actually die. If you stop at any time before they die, they will regain consciousness in some way, shape, or form, depending on how long their brain was actually down, how long their, heart stopped, how long they were stopped breathing, depends on the repercussions that they're going to suffer. But he willingly admitted, like, he said that he choked her out. And I think that he caught her from behind in some way that she didn't know that he was coming. But then when he says that he was straddling her, kind of like, it seemed like across the waist and across, he said across the baby. And she said, "You're going to hurt the baby." That to me just takes it to like, that makes me think that he is seriously messed up because he said he did it for 10 or 15 minutes. And I know it only takes a few minutes to strangle somebody and die, but that's your kid. And all of his friends say that he wanted this kid. I don't know. That just, I feel like she died shortly after she got home. And everything that he says alludes to the fact that she died right before he left or what he would leave, normally to go to work. And that just doesn't add up. I feel like he just made up all of this stuff that happened in between. And I don't know. It makes me think that he's just even more sick than I thought he was.
Well, so, and this was something I obviously was listening to today, that Tammy Lee was asking about why he didn't seem super thrilled for her to be pregnant. And so it kind of got me thinking, so I kept listening, and he was describing the scene of what his reaction to both of the girls, their pregnancies, and then why he wasn't super thrilled with Nico was because of the depth and things were already complicated.
That makes sense. I mean, I could see where that could put them in a hard spot, but that's also another contradiction because he said that they wanted, it was mentioned that they tried to get pregnant for 2 weeks and they found out that she was pregnant. That's that's nothing. That's one, cycle for a woman, and that's nothing. So maybe he thought he wanted another kid, or maybe they were in a different position a couple weeks prior. I don't know. Maybe I hate to say that would be, one of those things that sends him over the edge. but it makes me question. It can't just be one thing, but it's got to be all of these things added up. And I almost feel like that time away where Nicole Kessinger, he stayed the night at her house or her apartment every night in July, basically, and he admits to that. That kind of gave me a little bit more of an insight to his mind. And he admitted that he didn't want to think about the girls or Shanann, and maybe he got used to that. And maybe the fact that they were back and he had to take care of the girls by himself, it sounded like, for a few days while Shanann was gone. And then Shanann came back. And I wonder if all of that and, like, him getting back into his normal life is what kind of sent him over the edge. Like, he got used to life with Nicole, and maybe he thought he could get back to that. I just don't know how he thought this would be the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I agree. I've said 100 times, I don't know why he didn't just off himself. That's exactly what I say. And I know you've mentioned to me, Jenny, how him lighting himself on fire or whatever in the world he was going to do, that didn't make any sense either. Because if you're going to kill yourself, that's not going to be the way you're going to do it.
No. Not at all.
I wonder where he got that crap. Like, I wonder if it's because he tried to put the gas tank in the way. I think he put the gas tank in, like, on top of the back of his truck to obscure the view of where he thought the camera of his neighbors was. And then when he realized that people caught on to the fact they had a gas can, I wonder if that's where he said, oh, wait, I've got to come up with an excuse for every little piece of this puzzle. And it just seems like it's a bunch of bullcrap at this point. Like, he didn't show emotion to anything, and then he just kept spewing out words. I don't feel like any of it really meant anything, and he had an answer for everything.
Yeah. Thug for life, rigor takes between 6 and 8 hours, so no, that wouldn't have made sense. That wouldn't have lined up with time of death.
I totally missed that.
Well, so Thug for Life said Shanann was found with her knees bent and an arm outstretched. Maybe she was lying on her side in bed when she was murdered and stayed in that position when rigor set in. No, because she was in the, between the front seat and the back bench of the truck.
Okay, so I gotcha. Then maybe he had her. So Jay is for Justice posted something. I don't know. Did you see her pictures that she posted of Chris's truck today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is, like, no room for her. He said that the girls were on the bench seat in the back, and he said that Shanann was on the floorboard. And I know it was mentioned by the attorneys prior that the girls were on the floorboard. So all of this is just confusing. But if you look at the pictures, there's really no room for her. So she had to have been on her side. There's no way she could have been laying on her back in that position. There just isn't any room. So I wonder if that's where there was at least a 45-minute drive. So she stayed in that position for a good amount of time. Those girls couldn't have moved her at all. There's no way, unless, like, the vehicle moved her or something. And it's anybody in dead weight is heavy. She was pregnant. She wasn't that far along.
I don't know if anybody's tried to move dead weight, but it's a lot.
It's not going to be easy. It's a lot harder. I used to be a lifeguard, and I had to train with dummies in the water, like actual dummies in the water. And it would take multiple of us because they would have humans that were life-size adult humans, and we had to have 3 or 4 of us. I was 16 or 17 at the time, and there was no way I could do that. And to think of doing that even now, I mean, there's absolutely no way. You'd have to have multiple people. So he'd be struggling, even if he was fit, and I still think maybe he was on some steroids or something. Even if he was, like, having some sort of reaction from this Thrive, maybe that's what gave him the ability to do it, or adrenaline, you know, when something happens and there's a car on top of someone, you're gonna lift it up. That's what they say, or that's what happens in the movies. Maybe that's what was running through his mind, but I don't know. I get so confused every time I think that I have an opinion, or I think that I'm going a certain direction. We talk about it more, and it makes me more confused.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that, you know, it doesn't matter regardless. Layers just keep getting added to the point that I don't even think we know what's really the truth.
Exactly. It's definitely hard for that. I don't know. I wonder how many times the investigators are going to go back, and I wonder how many times he's going to change his story, because I know you and I have talked about the fact that we think he just wants to be relevant again. And I know that obviously he didn't plan the fact that the investigators were going to be there, but he probably knew that they were going to show up at some point, and they're going to continue to show up. They told him that. So I just wonder how many times he's going to change his story, or if he's going to elaborate each time, or what's going to happen, because I feel like every time he comes out with something, and I know I'm a part of it by doing this and by having the live audio and doing the, the whole reiteration of the review and everything of the report. But at the same time, I've talked about a bunch of times how I also want to be the change in the world, and I don't want people to continue to do this crap. And if anybody could see any signs that there's another Chris Watts out there, I would hope that they would stop. So I am going to stand up here on this pedestal and continue to talk about it, because I want there to be change. But I also don't want him to continue to do this to the families, because the Rusiks have said that one of the hardest things for them to think about and for them to know is what Bella went through. Because Bella not only found out that her mother was dead, she was a smart little girl. Her mother was being, she was strangled, and then she was wrapped up in a bed sheet, and she knew what was going on. She saw Chris drag her down the stairs, as he admitted to this, and obviously get her in the car. And he said he came back in and the girls were running around the house. So Cece woke up at some point because of all of that. So they knew something, and even the investigator alluded to, wow, she knew what was going on. She was a smart little girl. She was 4. She must have been really smart. And you could kind of tell that it caught him off guard as well, because of what he said. And I'm pretty sure he probably wanted to pound his face in, but you can't. You can't really show a reaction, because if you do, Chris is also going to show a reaction. He's going to mirror what they're doing. And if he thinks it's just a conversation, he's going to be more comfortable with them. And I'm sure it was really hard for the investigators as well. And so it's not only a horse and pony show for himself, but he's doing this to the investigators, and he's doing it to each family and each side, and he's doing it to anyone who's survived anything like this, and all of Shanann's friends and family, and all of the Watts' friends and family. So it's just frustrating to me, because I think if he sticks to his darn story and he keeps telling the same thing over and over again, they're finally going to stop talking to him, and all of this is going to subside, and maybe one day we'll realize why he did what he did. That I don't feel he's ever going to let that happen. He's going to, even if he's 85 and wrinkly in prison, he's still going to want to be relevant.
Mm-hmm. If he makes it that far. What?
I was going to say, it seems like the ones that you don't want to die end up dying, and the ones that you would like to die hang on as long as they possibly can. He's going to spend all those Colorado tax dollars and hang on as long as he can. He likes life Wisconsin. He's in Wisconsin now. He likes life in Wisconsin prison. That made me sick to know that he's cool with it. Hopefully not anymore.
I hope not.
I hope someone beats his ass. Sorry, guys, but I mean, for real. It's one thing, to know that he did something in an instance where it was domestic violence in a relationship. I mean, I've been there. I've done that. I've been in the attacked, side of things. But those girls didn't do anything. And he even said that that's the one thing that he lived for. And he even talks about now how he reads books to them in his prison cell. And he talks to them every night. That's just disgusting. It didn't have to be that way. Why, if anything, if you really were in a rage killing and you killed Shanann, you should have just called somebody. I mean, you could have called Nicole Atkinson. You could have called your family, her family, somebody, anybody, and let them know, hey, I've done something really stupid and really bad. I'm going to go take care of it and myself, but here are the girls. Those girls didn't deserve any of this. Let that marital crap aside, you know what I mean? It's hard to say that, but at the same time, those girls absolutely did nothing. And I don't ever want to victim bash anybody, and I'll kick you out of my lives than any of that if you do. So please don't take it as victim bashing. But I know it's difficult to be in a relationship. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're in. But the kids had nothing to do with it. I just don't understand. It makes me sick. Irby, I know. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I don't know if he necessarily lied about sex, but you have to understand that the autopsy would have been contaminated with a coffin birth.
I thought that too as well. I know that you and I have talked about that. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's not necessarily the funnest thing to talk about.
I would recommend Googling it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just what happens when someone is pregnant and they die. And that's going to contaminate, what she is saying is that's going to contaminate the autopsy. So in any other circumstance when a female dies, they're going to perform, especially when she's murdered, they're going to perform a rape kit. And that's going to be able to determine if they had any sort of intercourse at all, or if it was a rape. And in this instance, a lot of people are questioning because he admitted that that's what happened. They argued, they had sex, they argued, whatever. Some people are thinking that he caught her off guard and might have strangled her during that, especially since he admitted that it happened. And she is saying that because there was a baby involved and she was pregnant, that's going to completely, the results of the autopsy wouldn't be conclusive in that manner because it would be contaminated in that aspect of things. So we really don't know. A lot of weird things happen when you're pregnant. A lot of even weirder things happen when you die pregnant. So, yeah, it's not something fun to talk about, but that's something good to clarify, though, because that's something that I even asked Jenny. It is. I said, there's no way.
What did Michael just walk into? Well, sir, you just walked into us talking about coffin birth.
Hey, Dad with the phone. Guys, Dad with the phone was on Dateline last night, so make sure you check that out. We're done talking about it.
Michael, it was just reality, dude.
Like, it is. Someone wanted to know if we could determine okay, so Chris Watts said that they had sex, they got in an argument, they had sex. People think that she was killed at that point, and we're not going to know. Normally in an autopsy, we would know 100%. You would know normally up to 48 hours prior. You're not going to know in this instance. And it's just unfortunate because we don't know. That's one way we would know if he was telling the truth if she wasn't pregnant. Unfortunately, at this point, we just don't know that.
No. And we, unfortunately, will never know.
Someone saying that it clearly states no intercourse. Wesley, was that from the autopsy report? I've read that and looked at that a bunch of different times, and I could not find that. I need to go back and look again.
So would have found Watts evidence on Shannon, but it clearly states no intercourse. No, it wouldn't have. I've been involved in those. Just so you know.
I missed what happened here. What did I walk into? That's what, Brooke, that's sort of what I was thinking as well. I know it's not something fun to think about, but it is something that I thought too because of the way that she didn't fight back. So I mentioned before, I do have an autoimmune disease, and I know she does as well. It's not the same kind. Our medical history is a little similar, but it is different. But there are times that, my husband's sitting right here. There are times I can barely get out of bed, let alone stand up and walk or hold my child. So there are times where it wouldn't matter if someone was robbing my house or I thought I was going to be killed trying to get in my car. It wouldn't matter. I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I just wouldn't physically be able to do anything about it. But I can tell you when I was pregnant, or if it has something to do with my child, I don't give two craps what my situation is. I'm going to at least try to protect my kids. So, I don't know.
Oh, we're going to run through cement and or fire and or whatever it's going to take. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah, but I know there are times, like, especially on a really long, I know it sounds really weird, but an emotionally like stressful day or a really long and tiring day, there are times where I look at my husband and I feel like a total jackass, but I'm like, I can't talk. Like I can't even function right now. And it's not me being mean, and I know to the general public it would seem like it's just me being mean, but it really isn't. It's just me it's my way of handling things. I know that stress induces flare-ups for my conditions, and that's hard on me, but I've recognized that. And when people are like, she would have fought back, sometimes I think yes, and especially when she was being straddled, or so he says. But then there are other times where I'm like, no, I could see where if she was caught off guard, like if he came up from behind her or they were engaging in some fun or whatever, that she would be caught off guard and that she wouldn't know. And that is one circumstance where I could see that would be possible. Any other, I see that she'd throat punch him, or she'd at least try something. I don't know. If she was really in fear for her life, especially when Chris Watts said, what was she doing instead of fighting back? He didn't say she was sick. He didn't say he caught her off guard. He said he thought that after he read the Bible, this is me paraphrasing, but he came across a verse, something like, I don't know, I think it was the one, please forgive those for they know not what they do, or something like that. And the only thing that he could think of is that maybe she was praying. That makes me want to kick him in his jugular as well, because seriously though, that woman was not... If anything, she was praying, and she was praying for another day and for something to happen to him, or for her to have strength. But not that. I don't know. He is so conceited. It makes me angry. It really does. He is a moron.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that stuck out to me in the audio is saying he took a plea to prevent everybody from having to relive what he did. Like, yeah. He's protecting them. Like, he has some sick sense of, white knight almost.
No, yeah. He's just making it worse. So I told a few people in my life the other day that I know somebody through all of this, YouTube stuff that actually has a family member who is a serial killer. And this is from a case back in the 80s. I can't really say a whole lot. There will come a time and place where that person and I are actually going to talk about it, and you guys will be the first to hear about it. But that aside, she has said she has had to change her name, and she has had to move and completely leave her family because she was afraid of this person. And they have to relive this over and over and over and over. And that person actually tried to reach out to the Rusiks to let them know that even though you think that it might be a good idea to keep him alive, anytime something happens in prison, or if he ever does come up for parole, or if he does something stupid, or additional evidence comes out, or something like this happens, they have to relive this over and over and over again. And that's really stressful. She admitted to me that she was going to be gone off of all social media because she knew that all of this stuff was coming out about Chris Watts. And she just had to go. And I can't blame her, because this is a trigger for her. And this is a trigger for a lot of people. And for people to think that he's a saint because he was just going to come up with this confession and go away, and then he was going to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, that's a bunch of BS. He isn't doing anything but playing games at this point. And his deep set eyes and his expression, it just, everything in that picture that they took that they swore wouldn't go out on social media, it says it all. He is such a piece of crap. And it makes me laugh that they made it a point to tell him, oh, this won't go out on social media, you guys. Like, they were concealing all of their recording devices. He had no idea. No idea. Little does he know he's being talked about. Honestly, he probably enjoys it, which is sick. He's a coward, you guys. Jenny, what did you learn from this? Can you tell everybody what you learned from this?
Don't be a Chris Watts.
You heard it here, guys.
You heard it here first.
If you've learned one thing, do not be a Chris Watts. Yeah, if if he was enjoying himself in Wisconsin before, he's not going to be anymore. Unless for some reason that prison doesn't have any access to any sort of news. But that was pretty much the topic.
News travels.
Exactly. Unless somebody's watching his back 24/7, he's so screwed. But you said that you think he wants it that way, and maybe it is, and if that's the case, man, that makes me even more mad, because, you see, like, I can't decide what I want. It's not that it's my decision. What I want and what I care about doesn't matter in this case, but still, the fact that he is doing this to everybody, people that aren't even involved, can you imagine what these families are going through? It's a joke.
All I'm going to say is they are better humans than I, because, I would not accept what they did.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't hate him.
Did they come out and say they forgave him, or was that another case? I cannot remember if they were the ones or not.
So, Tammy Lee said in the interview that the Rusek family does not hate him, and that he that they didn't hate him, and that it was Sandy that was Sandy's the one that was adamantly against the death penalty.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
sorry, it took me a minute to get there.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, but I honestly know, like, I would hate to put anybody in those shoes, but I know that Dad with the phone has said the only way that you can really put yourself there is to figure out what would take you there. And I don't like to think about that, and I don't like to go there, but I do know that there are a lot of religions that I feel like you wouldn't be able to say, yes, please give him the death penalty, and then live with yourself after that. I wonder if that plays into that. I don't know anything about, I know that we've talked about Kelsey Barrett and her family's religion and how they were, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know that they were very religious, and I wonder if the Ruseks... Yes, I wonder if the Ruseks are like that.
The Ruseks are Catholic.
Okay, so I wonder, even being Catholic, I wonder if that would make you not want to do the death penalty just for that. I wonder if that, I guess what I'm asking is, I wonder if that plays into that.
I'm sure it does. I mean, it's something that I wrestle with, whether or not, how you can be pro-life and pro-death penalty.
That's a good point. A battle within yourself over something that, just like this, just like that. That was a perfect example, though. Like, do you want him to live? Do you want him to die? He killed my daughter and grandchildren, but do I have him killed as well?
Do I want to see him hung in the streets? Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Just let him out of prison for 5 minutes, please.
Let me put my hands on him, please.
He won't make it very far if he gets out of prison. I know that for a fact.
It sounds like he's not going to make it very far in prison if he just got into a fight a couple days ago.
I saw that, so I wanted to ask. I didn't know if anybody replied. I know I typed it in there and asked if anybody had any idea where. Okay, really? They thought FBI was there because he was a rat. Okay, I didn't see that. I was looking to see where that confirmation is. I'm going to have to look into that and see if I can get confirmation of that. Because,
let me Google it and see.
You guys, that would be awesome. Sorry, but
that would be fantastic.
A little bit of justice. I mean, my gosh. See, he was like, oh, I like to be here. Back when I was in Colorado, people would basically tell me how to kill myself. Well, because you're like the worst person. You killed 3 innocent victims and you're here. You're what's left to show for that. There aren't very many people that want him to be around. Honestly, they don't. she seemed like she was a very fit lady, like a lady that was very fit as well. And she reminds me of, I think my mom's in here. She reminds me of my mom, someone who's a little feisty, but real small and petite. And someone who also has the ability to, give you the what for. And as much as I struggle with the fact that she didn't fight back, and I question why she might not have fought back, and that it might have something to do with her just being stressed out, her being sick, her being pregnant, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was pregnant. I struggle with the fact that she wouldn't have done something, for that either.
Yeah, sorry, I just got distracted for a minute, and I can't find anything about Chris Watts being in a,
I'm going to have to look into that for sure. I haven't heard anything about it either. I need to set up a Google alert for his name. That way, anything that pops up, I'll find out. That way I can, either sulk or, get really excited. It's one of those things where I get torn about. It's an inner battle because he's a piece of crap. Why would he do this? He's a monster. But then I hate to say that I would ever like anybody to be beat up or anybody to see that, never see the light of day again. But at the same time, if there's one person that I have a lot of hatred for that I've never met, he'd be the person. That's for sure. Someone saying on March... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Someone said on March 3rd he had verbal confrontations with other inmates because he talked to law enforcement and they thought that he was snitching. They moved him to a different pod and cell. That's good information.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But, I wouldn't see... If the people in prison really knew what he was there for, I don't know why they would believe that, because there's no chance in hell he's getting out in any amount of time unless it's in a body bag. He's not going to make it out of there. Unless he escapes, I guess that could be a possibility as well. So, what is he snitching for? He doesn't have... Reducing a sentence isn't going to help him. Mm-hmm. I guess I just don't know why someone would think that. I think maybe that's an excuse to just beat him senseless.
Well, somebody like Chris would be the lowest form of human, lowest form of prisoner, so...
That's true. He's like the scum on the bottom of my shoe. He's just that guy that... Ugh.
He's gonna have to live and die by these choices.
I love to hate to talk about him. Right?
That's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, it is.
I have a love-hate relationship with a lot of things.
Yeah, I agree. That's true, and this
including
is definitely a good
and not
example.
Limited to leaving my bed at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you have to do that tomorrow?
I do.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh my goodness.
Sorry, y'all. Small children are present.
Natural Wonder brought up a great point. I'm trying to go back. They're saying that you can't lay there and die by choice while being suffocated. It's impossible. And I honestly think that you would have some sort of knee-jerk reaction. You're just going to fight back whether it's choice or not. I feel like it's almost like when you get hit on the knee, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to, your leg's gonna pop out. Now, I'm that one person that doesn't have that because my nerves are all jacked up, but it's your funny bone. You hit that one spot where you automatically have that knee-jerk reaction, and I feel like maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Sorry, I was gonna say something and then completely forgot what I was gonna say.
Unless he did catch her completely off guard and he got her in the right spot, she passed out within a few seconds. And then it was basically lights out from there, because if he kept holding on, then she would have just been gone. But he would have had to have held her for a long time. I think that's what makes this so heinous to me. And I think that's what a lot of people still have yet to comprehend, is just how passionate and how messed up it is to strangle somebody and to even smother. He smothered his 2 girls and he strangled Shanann. And one, to me, it was a little interesting that he said he did not cover Shanann's head with anything and that she didn't even look at him when he was doing it. So that leads me to believe that he was behind her and he caught her off guard. Or a lot of people said that they thought maybe she was sleeping. And he had mentioned in one interview that he was like rubbing on her shoulder or back or something, and it made me think that maybe he did get her from behind in that way and she just wouldn't have fought. But he mentions how I think it was Cece had a blanket and he smothered Cece with her blanket and then smothered Bella with the same blanket and then doesn't remember where that blanket is. So he changed the manner. He went from suffocation or strangulation to suffocation. And he went from being okay with the fact that that person could potentially look at him to not even being able to see the face at all because he covered them. I mean, he used the blanket. And so it makes me think that maybe he had more of an emotional attachment. Maybe he felt worse about the girls, but he still had 45 minutes to think about it, and he still didn't have any kind of reaction. So it makes me think that maybe he went through a psychosis or some sort of psychotic break when everything happened with the girls, and maybe that's why we talked about he didn't remember what he did with the blanket. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what was so traumatizing to him, and that's awful as well. Maybe it wasn't Shanann at all. He remembers, quote unquote, remembers so many details and so many specifics about Shanann and about Nicole Kessinger and about all of these different things. And he can't remember too much when it comes to specifics about the girls or what he did after that and why he did those things on the drive and if he said anything to them, what his last words might have been. And I know that some of the things in my life that are the hardest for me to think about are some of the things that I have intentionally blocked out of my life, but that's made me block out some of the good aspects of my childhood and stuff too. But that was an intentional thing for me to block that out. I almost wonder if he had more of an emotional attachment to the girls, and that's why he forgot those things, because he intentionally forgot. It's so hard for him to think that he did that he doesn't like to even believe that he did. He'd like to live in a world where he didn't.
I'll say it once, and I've said it once, I think to you on the phone, but I'll say it again. You had 45 minutes. Well, first of all, you kill your wife. Okay. Do you? If you want to kill your wife, that's fine. But don't drag your kids into it. Leave them in the house. Something, anything. Call Nicole Atkinson. Something, anything. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And we mentioned this before. Guys, she's not condoning leaving your underage children at home. She just means what was the alternate in this case. They're not alive. They're not here.
I am not condoning
yeah.
leaving your tiny humans by themselves at home, but it's better than killing them.
Absolutely. In this case, if he would have just left the house and called someone and said, hey, even called his neighbor, hey, my kids are at the house. Can you come take care of them? Call 911. I've left. My kids are at the house. You don't have to tell them where you're going or where Shanann is, but leave the kids out of it, just like you said. I mean, ultimately, he screwed himself by taking his work truck, the geolocation for his phone. He had a tracking system on his truck. He wasn't going to get out of this. But again, just leave the kids out of it. It's unfortunate when a domestic situation between a husband and a wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, has to turn into repercussions for the kids. They could be living with their grandparents right now. It sucks that any one of them had died, but for him to continue to do that definitely proves that this was premeditated, because he had all of that time. You only have a few minutes where you can come out of that, where it's premeditated and first degree versus second degree in Colorado, as far as what I'm understanding. And he just kind of surrendered and said, okay, guys, first degree it is, and called it a day. And he made it sound like he was doing this because it was the right thing to do, and he didn't want to put anybody else through this horse and pony show that he continues to do. So he was never the good guy here. He's just a joke.
Yeah. So Chris LB says he said he dropped off the blankets and clothing in the dumpster at the house under construction. That showed up on his truck's GPS. Yes, but here's the thing. If you listen to the interview itself, that was fed to him by Tammy Lee.
This is true, and he admitted that too.
Yep, it was fed to him.
There's numerous things that she fed. And I know that there's a lot of people that are saying that was great police work. That was great interrogation. I understand. I can understand both aspects of things because there are other people that are saying that wasn't good police work. And you don't do that. My thing is, I don't think she should have been so forthcoming with putting ideas in his head so early on. I feel like if maybe they were running out of time, and they only had so much time left where they had to either charge Chris or release him, then I feel like she could have jumped the gun there and been like, okay, is this what happened? Is that what happened? Because then she would just be getting him to feel comfortable, and she did. She got him to talk. But then all of the things that kind of progressed after the fact, and it's not even necessarily just in the investigation. Think of all the things that Shanann's family went through because of what he had to say. He made her look like crap, and this was a bash Shanann show for months, and people literally had to stick up for her, and the Rusiks were even bashed. Like, I feel like some of the things that happened just didn't have to happen, and it was taken way too far, and people take things from online into reality way too quickly, and it's not the detective's fault. They didn't know that this case was going to be sensationalized like it was, but in my opinion, I feel like she did that all too quickly. It was the first day they had him in there. They didn't have, I don't know, I feel like they had too much to lose, but it did get him to confess a little bit. We're just not sure what's true, so I don't know. I'm torn on that Tammy lady.
We needed to do some paternity testing? What?
See, I agree, Jasmine. I go back and forth. I just go back and forth. Sometimes you do have to make hard choices, and you have to go and approach things the way that you think that you're going to get the best results. And even though I don't agree with exactly how she approached it, ultimately, he asked to speak with his dad and confess shortly after. We, again, just don't know exactly what's true, and they don't owe us anything. Who am I? I'm the person that wants answers so this doesn't happen in the future. But I feel that people were judging Shanann and her family too much. That's all.
There are Facebook groups and YouTube videos that are all for, positive on Chris Watts. And it's all Shanann's fault.
That makes me think that something's wrong with this world.
Well, we know this.
I'm all for justice, and I'm all for everybody, gets their fair chance and fair trial, but he admitted it. There's not too much you can really do to get out of that. And people were also wondering if maybe his confession, if he was thinking maybe he'd get a lighter sentence or something. You guys, that's not going to happen. It doesn't matter. He already agreed to a plea deal. That's not changing.
Done, signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, that's not changing.
He's been sentenced. It's not changing.
No. So if he thought maybe he had it in his mind that would affect that, it's not going to. Now, they could have been lying. I mean, some people don't understand that police can lie in certain ways and for certain reasons, especially in investigations. I don't think that they would release this information if they were going to pursue anybody else. They could be, and I could be wrong. I don't know everything, but I really don't think that they would release this information if they were going to use it to charge somebody else. So as much as I would like to say that maybe they're on to Nicole Kessinger or NK or on to somebody else, maybe. I know people said that maybe there was somebody else, and there were a few other speculations of who might have been there. I really don't think that they're going to. I really think that this is, other than him playing games, I really think that this is about wrapped up at this point.
Well, and I mean, There's even theories, and it's run through my own mind, that they're gonna go after perjury charges for the two that claim to have affairs with him.
That's a possibility. That's also a good theory. Do you think that they would do it just to prove a point? To say, don't do this in the future?
To make an example of them?
Yeah, because they kind of impeded on an investigation. I mean, if you go lie, they cause for resources to have to go in that direction.
I would hope so, but, do I have... Again, is it true justice if, 9 different families are ripped apart in the process?
I don't feel that there's any justice for that. Yeah.
Is that really justice? Is that really, what we're calling justice? Because if that's the case, then we need to go ahead and fix our justice system.
Yeah, we need to reevaluate our morals and the way that we run things in this lovely US of A, because sometimes these cases make me look at people differently. I'm like, how could you even support so-and-so? And not just this case, but cases like this. It can really divide people, and it can really divide the Chris Watts supporters and the Shanann supporters. And in reality, honestly, who I feel the worst for are the girls, because they didn't deserve this at all. Obviously, I feel awful for Shanann and Shanann's family and Chris's family, because they didn't deserve this at all. But I feel like we get so wrapped up in Shanann and Chris that sometimes we forget about Bella. And I feel like all that she saw and all that was brought up over the last few days has kind of brought that back to light again. That we do kind of forget about them. And they're the tiniest victims. And they're the ones that need the voice. And I just hope that... all of this media attention and all this storm that he has caused, I hope causes somebody to not look the other way, and it causes somebody to reevaluate maybe their current relationships. I really think this case caused a lot of people to look at everybody in their life and wonder if they could also have a Chris Watts in their life, because he seemed so cool, calm, and collective. And he seemed like he wouldn't be that kind of person. And I think this frightens a lot of people.
I think it changes the way we, that we look at things. I think this was the first case that was tried on social media before it got to the court system.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest for sure.
I think people kind of took notice because it is, a small town. It is, the seemingly all-American family with, everything, the house, the kids, the car, all of it. A baby on the way, good looking, all of it.
They had that white picket fence. They had everything. The dog, the everything.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen anywhere. This doesn't discriminate. I think that's one of the biggest things as well, is domestic situations can literally happen in any neighborhood, in any state, in any race, in any religion, in anything. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't discriminate. And I think this really points in that direction as well. Yeah, I agree, Irby. I think that the way that he portrayed himself in the interviews and stuff from the very beginning, I feel like caused a lot of this, and that I feel like that caused a lot of the attention from the press and a lot of the attention from social media, because people could not believe the way that he was acting. And then when everything came out from his neighbor, I think that's when a lot of people really started to believe that he had screwed up.
Lori M., I think you touched on a good topic there a minute ago, where you feel as though NK should see some time for possibly having something to do with, who knows what, or maybe what she lied to or about in an investigation, or in an interview. And we're working on some sort of way of tying this case towards others that had similar scenarios, and they've actually have done time And, that's more to come, and we'll touch on that here in a few.
Absolutely. We're going to look at a few cases where it's more or less examples of situations where someone's been charged as an accessory after the fact because of either what they knew or how they might have presented what had happened, or maybe they had been involved. But that also makes me think as well, him mentioning that, Jenny, makes me think that if they're going to charge Trent Bolt and they're going to charge Amanda McMahon, that they also need to charge Nicole Kessinger because she lied too. They all lied, and I really feel like Nicole Kessinger lying does more damage than the other two. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, so there's perjury, and then there's, obviously accessory, which are two very different crimes. Could you get all three of them on perjury? Yes. Do I think they're going after NK? No.
I don't think so either. I'd like to think that they are, but
no,
I don't think
they're
they
not
are.
going to mess with her dad. That's the problem.
I don't know who her dad is. I heard that he might be some high power attorney or something. I haven't confirmed that. I haven't really, honestly, I don't like her enough to care to look into it. That's probably going to sound awful. I probably should, but
no,
I can't even stand to hear her name sometimes or see her face because I can't. I've said that I would like to think that maybe if Nicole wasn't in the picture, that maybe this wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, someone brought to my attention that if it wasn't Nicole Kessinger, it would have been somebody else. He clearly wasn't happy. I don't care what he says. I don't care if he wishes he wouldn't have met her or hung out with her more or whatever. Then I don't care what he says. It would have been somebody else. He was just seeking something that he didn't have, in my opinion. And that was brought to my attention after I said it was her fault. Even though it's not necessarily all her fault. He did it. I can't blame her for his actions. But I do feel that I don't feel she was innocent. I feel like she was a lot more involved. And especially the things that she had said, like pawning her wedding ring or her engagement ring. And some of the comments that she had made before and after the killings. They weren't necessarily something that I would expect for someone who was completely innocent to say or be involved in. And just some of the things that she did, like deleting her text messages and saying, hey, I'm coming to talk to you and I want to tell you everything. But also saying, I've also hidden part of the evidence because I got rid of it. And why? Because I found out he was pregnant. Or I found out Shanann was pregnant and it was Chris Watts' baby. And she found out through the interview when everybody went missing. And then Chris Watts mentioned in his Jailhouse confession just, in February that Nicole Kessinger knew all of this. She was just trying to save face. She was just trying to make herself look better. So it sounds like even he might be turning against her a little bit. But at the same time, it's not like it matters. I don't think that they would go after her unless they had some undeniable proof that she killed somebody or killed one of them or had something to do with it, like wrote down the instructions and gave it to them, There would have to be some sort of concrete proof that she did something, I think, for them to even consider it at this point.
So, Lori M says NK's dad was some big hog for the oil industry.
Aha, I heard he was a high-powered attorney.
Interesting.
Jasmine says that Chris Watts didn't kill himself because of his mom, and that makes her think that maybe she was involved. I didn't hear that, but I do know that I found it very interesting how he considered the whole Shanann debacle with the girls and the nut allergy or whatever, Nutgate. And he basically said that the family didn't like Shanann ever since he proposed to her, and things just kind of fell apart. So I don't know if maybe she had anything to do with it I think maybe she had more of an influence on everything that he did and maybe some of his thoughts. But I don't know if I necessarily think she had anything to do with it. But at this point, I honestly wouldn't put anything past anybody.
I wouldn't either. I mean, I wish things would have ended up differently? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
How many people knew before it could be stopped?
That's just like the
Again.
Kelsey Bear thing. Yeah.
This is just like Kelsey.
Someone's saying that Nicole Kessinger's dad is a Freemason. That's interesting.
Huh.
I haven't heard of that before either.
Oil companies, all those companies are Freemasons. They're supposed to be sacrificed. They do this because it's how they do the news. Wow.
I know someone said that, or I know that Chris himself said that he didn't, one of the reasons, at least that I caught, that he didn't actually kill himself was because it could have harmed more people than just him. And I think when he was meaning that, he was talking about catching himself on fire and I guess possibly blowing himself up or something, or trying to just light himself on fire. I don't understand. That's about the dumbest suicide plan I've ever heard, but...
Well, that's what they were talking. That's what he was talking to the special agent about.
Yeah, that he would hurt other
asked-
people.
That he would hurt other people in the process.
Yeah, I kind of took that as maybe family as in other people, but as in other people as in maybe people that may be affected by. If you think about it, that's a lot of oil that he was around.
So I don't know if you've like seen the site as a whole.
I saw I saw drone pictures. I think they were from the evidence file. And all
It's
that.
actually on somebody's like farmland.
Okay, interesting. I didn't
Yeah,
see that. I saw
Serbi's-
more of a close-up thing.
Yeah, Serbia is on farmland.
So someone actually owns that. There's like a house or something, or like a house and a barn or something that's on that property?
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to remember now. I've got meds kicking in, so I'm pretty freaking happy. Anyways, so it's just a ton of farmland, and there's like a house to the south of the site itself, like way south.
That's interesting. I know that's a whole lot of oil. I don't know exactly what that oil and fire would do, but
It would go up because it's crude.
yeah, I would say that there'd be a lot of damage from that. I mean, but I don't think he's smart enough to know something like that. I think he's smart enough to know in one aspect and not smart enough in the other. I don't think he has a whole lot of common sense. So maybe that's why this was his suicide theory or possibly his plan, but
How many of us actually have common sense?
you know, I'm beginning to wonder myself.
No, I have like none. So,
Oh, come on, you have more than Chris Watts.
yeah, but that, again, doesn't really bode well for me if we're saying that I have more common sense than Chris Watts.
This is true. He does have a pretty high IQ, though. I don't understand. One, I don't understand why that was even mentioned.
Really? Does he really? That is my question.
Yeah, and it was like, I think he said, like, it was off by, like, 20 points. He took it twice, and then it was off, and that made me kind of think, like, okay, why would it be off that much?
Yeah, he said, like, 130 to 140 in the interview, or 135 to 140.
I was going to say 140 and 160 or something. Yeah, it was something crazy like that. It was...
Yeah, it was something, I'm like, I don't think you're near genius level of IQ, but, hey.
I know I'm not close.
Wow, more power to you.
I know. It makes me sad to think that this is how everything turned out. Yeah. I wonder what would have happened if they would have just stayed in North Carolina.
I wonder what would have happened had she not gone to Arizona for that work trip.
Yeah. There's so many what ifs. And he even said, and he, as in Chris Watts, even said that he wished that his family, Nicole, holy crap, see? I'm so used to talking about her. Oh my gosh. That Shanann and Cece and Bella, he wished that they would have all just gone to North Carolina for a week and not have been there for the 6 weeks and him have been there for the last week. He even said that he wished that would have happened. But it's like, hindsight is 2020, you never really know what's going to affect things until after the fact, and then it looked like there was already so much of an explosion, there was nothing he could have done. I guess that's what he thought. It's ridiculous that I don't understand how some people think divorce is worse than murder. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I guess if you're going on, that the man is supposed to provide, the safety and security and be the breadwinner of the household, then, if your entire, world is wrapped up in that, that thought process or that way of thinking, and then, someday your, wife or, soon to be ex tells you, I'm leaving the kids and you'll never see them again.
Yeah, I get that, but I guess what I don't understand would be what everything happened after the fact, because he says he just didn't understand what he was doing and he really wasn't thinking clearly and wasn't thinking at all. But he continued on. What would make him go from, okay, I could get it, you're not going to tell me I'm not going to see my kids again, but then you took your own kids from you. That's what confuses me, I guess. Because, honestly, if he would have just killed Shanann, he might have gotten away with it. It happens a lot. Especially if they didn't find a body.
Yeah.
The fact that...
That's what we're staring down at the Kelsey Barrett case.
Yeah. The fact that he killed the girls, he sealed his fate at that point. But if that was what really caused him to lose control... That confuses me because he went and did the exact same thing. I mean, I guess it could be one of those situations where the guy or the girl's like, well, if I can't have you, nobody else can. But then they're your kids. You literally could have gotten away. It's possible you could have gotten away with murder, quite literally. But then you took it a step further.
Yeah. Had he not, had... Nicole Atkinson not stayed and been persistent, he would have gotten away with it.
Yeah.
And that was his plan. That was his plan all along, is he wasn't going to have to answer this. So he didn't need a reason.
Yeah, that's true. And I do agree with Irby, too. A lot of people were saying they agree with Irby that she does not think that he ever told Shanann that he was cheating. She thinks that she found out on her own, but he was too much of a coward. He killed her instead of facing the situation. And I agree.
She would have gotten the notification that he used that card on her phone.
Yeah, and she would have known that he wasn't at the house. It's my understanding that their security system and their cameras on that house were super in-depth. They tell you every time a specific door that has a sensor on it is open and closed. So he would have had to have made up a pattern where it looked like he was in the house, but he wasn't in the house. And he still had to let their dog out, Dieter. So he had to go back and forth a bunch of times. And I feel like there would have been a whole lot more. I've had someone say they were at my house and they weren't actually at my house and they were supposed to be letting my dogs out. And I knew for a fact because I had cameras and I had the motion detectors telling me the last person to leave my house was my husband and that nobody had been there. Shanann wasn't stupid. She would have known. There's no way he stayed there every night in July and her not know about it.
Yeah.
She was smarter than that, for sure.
I think, I don't buy any of what he's saying. I'm not buying what he's saying.
I think there might be a little bit of truth embedded in all his bullcrap, but I don't even know if it's intentional. I feel like all of this is just a rehearsal to him, and that if truth falls in there, great. As long as he's just giving somebody a show, he doesn't care. I hope he just lets everybody is in the families and their friends. I hope that he lets them rest at some point.
See, my part of me wishes he would pull a Patrick and just shut up.
Yeah.
I've
said multiple times too that you'd think that Patrick Frazee would have learned more from Chris Watts than what he did. He learned something. To shut up, not talk to the media, and to lawyer up. I'm pretty sure on Dad with a phone. So Woodland Park Underground is also Dad with a phone, and he had on his dad on his channel yesterday, and they were doing an interview. Didn't he mention that, now this is not to be quoted because we're not sure on the specifics here, but he is a retired either sheriff or he was in the police department and somewhere, and he's retired from there. And I'm pretty sure he said that if there is no body, the conviction rate is either at or less than 10%. So if you hide a body well enough and you just shut up, most of the time you're going to be okay. And that's sad. I think Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, Colorado is one of the hardest places to get a conviction without a body. It's not like that in every other state.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking difficult just because our presumption laws are pretty intriguing.
That makes me intrigued. I'm going to need to look into that because I had no idea what their requirements for first and second degree murder were, and a lot of people know that laws are going to be similar, but they are also going to be different. So I was curious what the specifics were for Colorado, and looking into that and knowing what he pleaded guilty to. I mean, I feel like if he would have just gone to trial, he could have at least gotten second degree just because of the bull crap he's putting out now. So there was a reason why he pleaded guilty, and I just don't feel like it's what he's told us. And honestly, I don't know if we're ever going to know.
No, probably not. So Chris says he was planning to use his nice guy image as an alibi and use Shanann's flaws against her. He knew what he was doing. He still knows.
Yeah.
He did that anyways. Well, I should say Tammy Lee did that.
Yeah, she helped. That's for sure. I'm not saying she's a bad investigator at all.
No, but she fed it to him.
Yeah, she did. And he even said, he didn't think about it until she put those words out there, and then he thought about it. I would be curious to see what he would have come up with on his own if she wouldn't have fed him that.
Yeah, I wanted to know where he was going to go by himself, but
couldn't he have just, aren't there a lot of like mountains and stuff in Colorado? Like, couldn't he have just ran his truck off of one of those or something? Like, why did he have to involve everybody else? I just don't understand.
Well, there's GPS. That's one of the problems on the truck. So he'd be headed the opposite direction from his work site.
It's just crazy. I just don't understand.
I don't know.
Yeah, Sam, I'm not sure who's more hated, KK or NK.
KK, by far.
KK. They're both pretty up there. I think KK is more involved.
KK by far. And I can tell you without a doubt from sitting in that court.
For those of you who do not know, we're talking about Crystal Kinney. This is the mistress of Patrick Frazee in the Kelsey Barrett case. And I think that she has a lot more to do with Kelsey Barrett's murder than what anybody's admitting. But again, this is somebody who we are relying on their truth, or we're relying on their testimony to be truth.
We are relying on their hearsay.
Yeah, and honestly, so in this case, there is a guy, Patrick Frazee, is going to be going up against Crystal Kinney, his mistress's testimony on what happened and who killed Kelsey Barrett and what happened to her. So without a body, and with the conviction rate in Colorado as what it's supposed to be without a body, and the fact that they're relying really heavily on a testimony, it just goes to show you also, though, how this could have gone completely different if Chris Watts would have gone about it differently as well. We wouldn't know anything that we know now.
She will only get 3 years at the most.
That's sickening.
She pled guilty to a Class 6 felony of tampering with evidence.
Now, if it were to come out and there were to be concrete evidence that she killed Kelsey Barrett, do you think that maybe it'd be possible under Colorado law? It's done?
Nope, it's done.
See, you guys, that just goes to show you that the government sucks sometimes. I mean,
they made a deal with the devil.
Jeez, sometimes you got to make a deal with the devil to get somebody down, though.
There's definitely some holes in the cheese, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I guess it's better though. I know we're, kind of getting off topic a little bit with the Kelsey Bear thing, but I know that Kelsey Bear's family is totally ticked off that Crystal Kenny is only going to get 3 years max, and people have,
even they've made peace with it.
Yeah, and you also have to consider the fact that, well, if they didn't give her a deal, they might have never even gotten Patrick charged with anything. That's how little evidence there was. Like, her family had to point out some of this evidence. So, and I hear that there's a lot of corrupt police work being done in Colorado. I can't necessarily comment on whether I know that's fact or not, but I can tell you I've heard from a few sources that it's bullcrap.
It's some bullshit.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
The only way that they're going to rescind her plea deal is if she talks to the media or stops working with law enforcement.
That could be definitely one, yeah, not working with law enforcement, because wasn't under her plea deals that she has to completely testify against Patrick Frazee?
She has to completely cooperate and stay out of the media.
I did not know that was a part of it. That's good to know.
Look, I'm in Colorado, so there's nothing wrong with Colorado water. It's just people have lost their damn minds, that's all. There's no value on human life.
That's what's sad.
Everybody's replaceable.
This is true. And it makes it sad, that's for sure. You guys, my mom just texted me and asked me if there are any updates on Savannah Spurlock. Holy crap. My mom doesn't do true crime, y'all.
What? Wait, who's Savannah Spurlock? Do I know his name?
See, we live in Ohio, and Savannah Spurlock went missing in Kentucky, so it's not too far from us. But this is another one of those rabbit holes. I was just shocked she even asked me about any of them. Holy crap! I'm gonna have, just because you asked me, Mom, I'm gonna have to look and find out. I don't think there is one. I think they were still searching for her body. I'm pretty sure they think she is dead. I do not think she has been presumed dead yet.
No,
because
everybody needs to go home and get out of Colorado. That's all.
Go home and get out of Colorado. Hey, I've heard, if you want to get away with murder, you should move to Colorado.
No, you moved to 8,500.
8,500. Oh my goodness. Dude, I know we say that there's a low conviction rate and stuff like that, but really all of technology has really made it hard to get away with anything anymore.
But it's made it so easy.
It's made it hard and difficult. You can play evidence. You can play evidence on each other. Mm-hmm. You can, Patrick Frazee tried to do the same thing. He tried to act like he was going to be Kelsey and text from her phone. But when they do that geolocation, those phones were in proximity of each other. So technology, people don't think. I think we've become so accustomed to how technology is a part of our life that we don't realize in that second part of our mind and in that afterthought that it could be incriminating us. We don't think that Google tracking our location and Facebook having all of our check-ins and location, it can either save your butt or it can put you in the slammer. That's for sure.
Or if you're like me, good luck finding where my current location is.
Well, hey, you know what? We have VPNs and stuff, so we're trying to,
I'm currently routed through Russia.
That's even better than what I am. I'm learning about all this good stuff and technology and learning how to take care of ourselves and make sure that we're okay. But these cases really make you look into those things. They make you want to upgrade your security system, but then at the same time, they were taken advantage of by people that they knew and that they were most vulnerable to. And that's what's even more scary. There's no security system that's going to protect you.
No, I mean, when you're talking about, murders that we've been talking about, in a domestic violence situation or even, in a household, you're more likely to be killed by somebody who is, a intimate partner than anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're a female. If you're a female and you're killed, I can't remember the exact specifics, but it is so high. It's usually, it's an incredible percentage, but it's almost always the other partner. It sucks.
Now, Chris LB here just added a very interesting fact into the comment that I wanted to point out, just so that in case anyone missed it. He said that he's currently located in the prison where Dahmer was killed. So, I think that's a very interesting fact to point out, especially in reference to when you include children. And unfortunately, that's the unfortunate factor here. And again, our condolences go out to the family involved. It's just, the fact that, pointing out the fact that this is where Dahmer met his ultimate fate, it doesn't bode well for this gentleman.
Nope, not at all. Someone else is bringing up, too, that I'm pretty sure Jenny and I were talking about this. It was maybe it wasn't. I was talking about this with somebody. There was somebody in North Carolina who was pregnant who was killed, and it was mentioned that quite possibly...
We did talk about this.
Yeah, quite possibly Chris Watts had something to do with it. Now, I have done a little bit of research on it, and I tried to find out what that lady's name was. I tried to find out how old she was when this was, and honestly, I couldn't find it. So if somebody can point me in the right direction, I'd be more than happy to look into that. truecrimetruth@gmail.com. I would really actually beg of somebody to send me that information, because I've been trying to find it and I can't. So I'd really appreciate it.
It would be wonderful. Because now I'm curious. See, this is the problem. I get on these rabbit holes and then I can't get myself out of them.
I know, I do the same thing too. So I've talked about how we're going to do an episode on, we're actually going to do a series on, well, I don't know, I guess we're going back and forth, but there's been some cases that, like Crystal Rogers, and some other cases that we start to get looking into, and then all of a sudden, Chris Watts likes to show his face again, and everybody gets confused on what's going on and what he's lying about this time. So that's why we're here again. So we go through the same rabbit hole, and I know people are commenting that some people don't know the case and whatever on here. And guys, murder brings out the crazies. So it just does. And I had never had a troll in my life until I started talking about the Chris Watts murders. And that's where they came from. So that's fun. Last name was Long. Longe. Any idea what the first name was? Do I think Chris Watts was a good father? I saw videos and I saw statements that made me believe that Chris Watts was a good father. Now, what he did though, he does not deserve to be a father. So I don't know what happened between him doing all of those wonderful things and then becoming such a piece of crap. So that's where I get confused, and that's where I feel like I lose touch with what in the world happened. Okay, so someone gave me the last name. I don't know that girl's name. I'm going to try to find it. Let me know if anybody can find that girl's name. I want to look into that. I think someone put out the last name Longe. I've got that written down. But I'd love to know first name if anyone can remember. Hey, Sam. Hey, everybody that's new to our channel and everybody that's joined. We appreciate it. And yes, Lori, Chris Watts brings out the crazies. And honestly, I think it's because a lot of people can't understand. Hey, the spider. I think they get confused how somebody like Chris Watts, who Shanann herself put out so many videos of Chris Watts being a dad and him being a husband. And then you have people that get confused when this happens, because we don't understand where that line came in, what happened from him to, like I said, I understand if Shanann made him upset, but what did those little girls do?
I mean, to me, it almost sounds like he snapped the fact that he was being called out on cheating.
And the fact that she said, I'm going to take your girls away from you. You're never going to see him again.
And that could have been the trigger.
But then again, like, everything that he did, though, led him to not be able to be with his girls anyway.
Well, true, but then there was also the fact that any threat of, hey, you're never ever going to see this individual in your life again, especially if they meant even a minuscule amount to you, it cuts deep. You know what I mean? That's one of those things where they knew it was going to hit that nerve. They knew it would get some sort of reaction. I just don't think they anticipated that type of reaction, unfortunately.
No, I agree. How many times do you look at me and think you said that for a reaction? Like, but what time am I, how do you know what one time you're going to say something for a reaction? Is that going to be that last reaction? You don't ever...
That's true, and you never go into a conversation thinking, hey, this could be my last, unless...
No, exactly.
Premeditated, and then at that point, exactly. That's
red hot.
Kind of messed up.
For sure. That's how I'm so confused about this too. I don't understand it at all.
Well, and I mean, like I said, the only thing that naturally made any sort of sense was that fact that one of the kids, and I forgive me, I'm not as familiar with the names, but I believe it's
Bella and
Cece, but I don't remember exactly which child it was that he said saw
Bella.
Okay, so Bella saw the mom wrapped in the sheets, which in that case, how do you then turn around and explain to a child, hey, keep this quiet, please don't tell anyone, Daddy will get in a lot of trouble?
She's 4.
I'm not saying that was the right choice. Please do not anyone think that I'm saying that was the right choice, because I am absolutely appalled to what actions he's taking. It's just, for me, he was in a lose situation as soon as he decided to take somebody else's life. And at that point, he was going forward with it, and I think in his mind, he was in some sort of state that he thought, once this is done, I'm getting away with this. I'm walking away. No one will ever find out, and nothing's going to happen to me. And in this day and age, we prove time and time, and I'll continue to say it again, that you're not going to get away with it. So if you continue to try to do something stupid, the law will catch up to you.
We would like to think that would be true.
Well,
I know most of the time it is. Technology's definitely working in our favor now. I mean, we catch people from 10, 20, 30, and 40 years ago. So, she lived only 12 miles from Watts. Thank you, Angela. I'm opening this up right now.
Wait, who? Oh, okay, sorry, I'm back.
Hey.
Hey.
I don't think Shanann was insured. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% positive. I know that...
Are we talking health insurance? Yes.
I think we're talking life insurance.
Talking life? Probably not.
I think we're talking life insurance, and I do not think she was at all. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, he did dispose of them like trash, and that is a total monster, and there's just nothing that you could say or do to really justify it, no matter what happened. It's frustrating. Chris said that they were all insured, but I'm not 100% sure if we were talking about... okay, Paula said no, she did have a life insurance, but it wasn't a lot. Exactly, he could have gotten a divorce. It's not the end of the world.
I mean, they were gonna file, either filed or were gonna file for bankruptcy, so...
Yeah, they could still be investigating Nicole Kessinger, but I doubt it just because of all of the evidence that's been released. But at the same time, with the way that records have to be made public based on different laws and regulations and stuff, it could be possible that they had to release the information and they were up against a wall and they didn't have any choice. But I would like to think that they never had to tell us that they met with anybody on February 18th, let alone him. And they willingly brought that information to our attention and then told us when and where we could get the information. And I feel like if they were looking into Nicole Kessinger, that they wouldn't be so forthcoming with that information. I feel like they would try to hide it a little bit better. But again, that's just me speculating, and that's totally just my opinion. Someone said that there was a $50,000 life insurance policy for Shanann and $25,000 for each Cece and Bella. That could have been through his work as well. I mean, I know, lots of people are able to get family insurance and stuff. I don't know. I just know that it's interesting, and every time I think that I changed my mind on a few different scenarios and things that I even wanted to bring up before we came on today, because there's so much to talk about that we could be here all day. And then I look into one thing and I start going down a rabbit hole in a different direction because of other information that I've gathered, or taking something he said in a different way, or having new evidence brought to my attention. It's just so confusing. FBI knows something in this case is so sad.
You think the Watts know that America hates them? See, it's not that I hate the Watts family. It's not. I don't.
Oh, I don't hate the Watts either. They're going through a lot as well.
Am I sad that they're going through this? Yes, absolutely. Am I, do I think they raised a monster? Yes, absolutely. But why are the parents held liable for the crimes of the child?
Yeah, absolutely. People, this, just even looking at the chat here, I mean, this brings out the passion in people. People are not happy with him.
Well, I mean, the other thing is you got to think of anytime something like this happens, you're not going to see the bright side of that person. They're being portrayed in a certain manner, and I'm not saying right or wrong. It's just unfortunately when you comment that
Jenna Nielsen.
How do you feel America feels when that we hate the Watts family, and that's not necessarily the case. It's just unfortunately we all hate that this tragedy has happened, and that how one individual could overnight essentially snap, and that just makes a lot of people's minds just tick, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it confuses people, and I think it instills a lot of fear in people for them to know that someone they trusted could potentially do this to them. I think it causes people to wonder how somebody could do this and why we don't know why he did it.
Do you think he was being truthful when he gave Bella's last words?
Jenna Nielsen. Okay, so my thoughts on that is if he's not truthful on what he said, that's even more messed up than almost any of this, because what he said, she said, and for you to, so we talk about like thinking, going to that place, what would take you to that place, what would you think about or whatever. Can you imagine what would take you to that place for you to say that your daughter said that?
I mean, I get it, but the question has to be asked.
Oh, I know. No, for sure. That would be even more messed up, in my opinion, man.
I mean,
By natural wonder.
If he's gonna be, he's gonna lie, what would stop him from lying about that? He's lied before. He'll continue to lie, but why would he not say that for, sympathy?
True. I feel like now he just...
Sorry, Christy, I'll speak up. My bad.
I feel like it's just hard for everyone to kind of wrap their mind around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what to believe about Nicole Kessinger either. I mean, I get confused.
What I think the case that really drew my attention to this was I believe her name was Amanda Buffett and Daniel Wozniak.
Yes.
And it was very, I don't want to call it similar because they're different in their own way. However, if you're unfamiliar with the Wozniak case, it was a murder for an incentive. They essentially went after this individual's military pay. And that is the lowest of the low. And then the reason why I bring this up is that Amanda Buffett, after the fact, was charged as an accessory.
She was the fiance to the murderer. She knew too much. She knew.
Well, and she lied. And
Exactly.
what she lied about to the police and or the investigators or whomever it was, the detectives, then at that point, years later, she was then tried and charged. So I don't want to necessarily close the door on the possibility of NK ever being an accessory after the fact, because if there's enough evidence there, they could do it. It's just, will they pursue it?
This is true. I think it's just hard in this instance because that happened a few years ago, and this is happening more recently where it's being tried more in the public and on social media than the other cases. And I think that's where it's hard because everybody wants to know the information. Everybody wants to have the latest news and know exactly what's going on in this case. And I think that makes it hard as well. All right, well, I know that I am going to wrap up everything. We've got Jenny has got to get up early in the morning, and so does the hubby, and I've had a sick one I was going to say all weekend, and really he's been sick for going on a week now. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night, and I appreciate everybody's theories on everything. I appreciate everybody. I know sometimes it gets out of hand a little bit. I apologize. So I appreciate everybody bearing with us. I know that murder brings out the crazies, and Chris Watts brings out the crazies even more. So people are very strong in their opinions, and I thank everybody for bearing with us all and accepting everybody's opinions, even if they're super crazy in your opinion as well. Jenny, it has been a pleasure as always. I super appreciate your time and information. You guys, she has a little bit more information and a little bit different of a background than I do. So I definitely appreciate her bringing us that information. And this is not the first or the last time you'll hear from her on our channel. Same with my hubby over here. I know he was kind of in the background, more so chatting with all of you today. So I appreciate everybody's time, and we will be back.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye, Jenny.
Thanks, y'all. See ya.
Good night.
Good night.